رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum all. Welcome to our weekly webinar. It's great to be with you again after a 2 weeks Ramadan break. This week, inshallah, we will be going through the 11th verse. It's a great topic. It's kind of very comprehensive, including the whole aim of creation and our aim of existence. So it's a very major topic that's kind of related to the whole Risale, the whole collection. And inshallah, we were planning to have Colin Hojam, Colin Turner, but he is not here yet. But inshallah, we'll continue with Brother Salih from Ankara, and Harun Hojam will be with us, inshallah. So let me start. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها إلى آخر الآية. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate, by the sun and its glorious splendor, by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it shows the sun's glory, by the night as it conceals it, by the firmament and its wonderful structure, by the earth and its wide expanse, by the nafs and the order and proportion given it. Brother, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the wisdom of the world and the riddle of man's creation and a mystery of the reality of the prescribed prayers, 5 daily prayers, then consider this short comparison together with my own nafs. So, I want to stop here for a second and think together with my speakers. As it follows in the verses, the order, also in the beginning, to talk about the wisdom of the world and man's creation, and then the prayers. So how it is related, I want to a little bit, talk about it, if anybody wants to step in. So it's going step by step, and right after the talisman and wisdom of the world, it's mentioning the riddle of man's creation. So why it goes with this order, or why it's strongly related, as in the verses it's talking about the sun and the moon and the day and the night, and then directly it mentions about the soul, the nafs. An idea at this point on this?
Ali, you want to chime in?
Harun Hocam, do you want to step in?
Sure. I mean, if you're not getting in the first place. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Actually, this 11th word is a masterpiece. I know each risale, each treatise has its own right to be masterpiece. But for myself, I'm really fascinated, especially with this 11th word. And the reason, how to say, as the idea, right? The idea of this risale is it's kind of telling us what is in the first place the purpose of our existence. So this is kind of the very ontological question everybody, every human being or every person with consciousness has to ask and is asking, right, during the life. And everybody just adopts a philosophy, adopts a lifestyle based on the understanding of the existence. So I think this risale, this treatise is at the core to address this question. And I believe, this verse Ustad Nursi takes from Surat al-Shams is itself, very comprehensive. And I'm also fascinated with, how Ustad Nursi got inspired, this treatise from this short verse. And it also directs us, guides us how to understand or how to approach Quran, how to really understand or have an understanding of verses. So the vast ocean of the meanings of the verses. So then, Baykar Abi, your question, like, what is the connection? You see in the verse, it says it is the creation of, it's the sun, it's the moon, and it's the day and night. It's the creation of man. I mean, these are the keywords in the verse that we can see. And obviously, this is the creation in the first place. So we can be inspired about talking about creation in the first place. But one step further, Ustad Nursi takes this creation and particularly the creation of man and connects this to the prayers. And as we will see, I think the key is the man's creation here and giving meaning to life. So for us to be able to give meaning to life, my understanding is the key is the prayers. I mean, without a person, just conducting daily prayers, it's the hypothesis that I see is that it is almost impossible to understand why we are really created. In other words, prayers function as a key to unlock the riddle of creation. These are my initial comments. If Salih agrees.
Assalamu alaikum, first of all. Yeah, your points are, you highlighted very important aspects of the verses Ustad is talking about. First of all, you said that these are short verses and Ustad is coming up with lengthy explanations. So Quran, I guess what I understand from these verses is that Allah has kept the verses short so that the meaning is lengthy. So there's too much to say about it. But in the following paragraphs, we're going to read very accurate explanations of what these verses mean. And the very question that Ustad is asking and trying to explain is that there's a talisman about the wisdom of the world, of the universe. And I understand this phrase as the talisman about why, for what reason there is this wisdom in this universe. So there are two questions that we can ask. How is this wisdom established? How is this hikmah is established in this universe? And the second is why, for whatever reason, do we have this wisdom, this hikmah in the universe? I guess the question that Ustad is asking and trying to answer is the latter one, the second one. Why there's this beautiful and full of wisdom universe? Because if you look at the work of man, There doesn't need to be lots of wisdom in what we make. However, this is exactly the opposite. If you look at the creation is like full of wisdom. There's abundant wisdom, and there are lots of aspects of wisdom that we could not even, be aware of. Uh, why Allah has come up with such a universe which is full of wisdom. So this is a talisman, and this needs to be answered. And what I have happened to learn about what the philosophers say about this question is that they are kind of unable to even speculate about this. So it's all about, so what they say is the universe is all about the perfect combinations coming together. However, this doesn't explain why there exists such hikmah in the universe. And this is a talisman. As long as the seeker does not at some point at least assume that there is a creator who is intentionally coming up with such full of hikmah creation, then this question cannot be explained. So this is what I get from these verses and the very first question that Ustad is bringing about.
Thank you so much for bringing the question on the table. Actually, it was going to be my second question. It's a, again, it's a very big statement, and it's a very, very uh, crucial and major part of our lives. Why we are here at all, why, where we come from, and who are we, and what is all this existence about. And as Harun Hocam, said, I guess the question comes on the table with the existence of human being. Otherwise, yes, it's miraculous, it's wonderful, it is great. However, everything is doing their specific functions and tasks perfectly. But when the life and especially the human consciousness comes into play, now why all these things are happening, why they are so harmonious, why they are hand in hand working together, and what's going on here, right? What's the purpose here? I guess we will all agree that at one point of our lives, this will be the obvious question. Just not ignoring it, or just overseeing it, just not paying attention to this question is not possible, I guess. And the Salih Hocam said, what's the answer of the philosophers for this? That's my question too. So is there any picture that's like look into the whole picture really out there, except the divine texts or the religions? Is there really any command or opinion on this that you're aware of, really addressing this question? This is one point that I want to ask, if except the divine guidance, is there any philosophy or ideology that's really addressing this comprehensive question, why we are here, or who are we?
So what we have learned in high school and in the university is that whatever we see all around of us are just consequences of very impossible combinations coming together. That's all what they say. And if you look at the cosmos to be just a dough of atoms and the stars and, and human and beautiful flower out there is just the consequence of mere uh, possibilities, then yeah, you can come up with some r- self-consistent explanations, self-consistent, but not consistent with the outside universe. But when it comes to the, the adornment and the wisdom and the beauty and along all kinds of other uh, nuances in the creation that does not need to be put in the universe because it is just a combination of atoms coming together, then this makes a very striking question. Why on earth should I love my kid? Why do I love my mother? Why do I like eating, I don't know, ice cream? These kind of questions and the facts in the universe that make us ask such questions disqualifies all the answers given by the philosophers that are in the form of, oh, it is all the combinations coming together by chance. So the universe could have existed without beautiful colors. The universe could have existed without beautiful, adornments. Or the universe could have existed with these, but no creation being able to perceive these beauties. But these all exist. And that uh, changed the nature of the question so dramatically that all the answers that have been claimed to be the answer to these questions by the philosophers are just simply disqualified from being, acceptable answers. And in the following paragraphs, Ustad is touching all of these points one by one. For example, like beauty, hikmah, or um, or for example, like abundance of rizq, or creating conscious beings, as you just mentioned. Ustad is going to, inshallah, touch all of these, and we should stop on these, I guess, and think about these aspects very carefully, I guess.
So Harun Hocam, as far as what I get from Salih Hocam's opinion, there is not much out there who is talking about why. Maybe we have a lot of thoughts on how this universe might have come into existence, but why question is not there yet, except the divine religions. I guess it is kind of very limited, and only divine guidance kind of talking to the human consciousness in this sense, as far as I understand. Do you have any words to add on this?
Yeah, just to balance what you and Salih says, actually what I see, we should not consider philosophy as, opponent of the revelation.
Yeah.
I think what Ustad takes is on the contrary, Ustad takes philosophy as a friend, or as guiding Quran, or guiding the revelation in the first place. Like when we look at the Western philosophy, we know the roots of Western philosophy is Aristo and Socrates, actually. When you look at the Socrates in Risale-i Nur, the way Ustad pursues, he's a great man, and he just read the universe very truthfully. And we don't know the circumstances, right? Like the revelation is veiled, or there's some conditions where revelation cannot be met by this giant minds, let me say, thinkers. Then their condition is special. But we know that Ustad especially pays attention to Socrates and his situation. Like he's the man of, relief, he's the man of survival. So if I take Socrates and what it represents, like Western philosophy, we understand that actually the things that contradict with the revolution is very, very little, if there really exists. So what it really does is, revolution and true philosophy, let's say, they are in line and they're saying the same. It cannot be different, right? Allah created or God created, right? So the creation cannot be different than, the other creation, like the words of God should be in line with words of God, right? Every person is a word of God, and they are thinking. Their thinking process cannot be biased in reality. So I think it's better to see this Western philosophy that Socrates, rooted at Socrates and his thoughts, is very pretty much, in line with what revolution says. So they are not opponents at all. Of course, we know the criticism that we have towards, philosophy that contradicts with the Quran or with the revolution. We are not on that side. We are not discussing about that type of philosophy. And to your question, like, did anybody question those things? I would answer yes. Actually, there are many thinkers who questioned in the same way. And I can see they found answers in the same way that we read here Nursi talks about. For instance, lately, I have seen Leibniz, he is the logician, mathematician, thinker, whatever. And he just tells that, there's a perfection in the universe, he claims. And many philosophers just oppose him, that it's not the perfection, there is evil, there is, this calamities, there is suffering in this world. But, when you look at the Leibniz, for example, he puts it in the right place. He says that although you suffer has a place in the bigger picture. Like everything God gives in his own words has a place. And this place is really complements the bigger picture, which is hikmah, what we call. So I would say really many, many people rooted at philosophy, addressed this type of questions, and they had also belief in God, in the creator. I would say they are not different at all, if this balance the thing. Of course, this does not devalue or, this does not, decrease the value of the revelation, or this does not decrease, any value. On the contrary, we are showing that actually guided with revolution, philosophy is amazing. I mean, it's our friend, actually, it is what we need to do.
Thank you for the definition. Thank you for distinguishing those things. That was exactly what I am trying to come to. I'm not knowledgeable in philosophy at all, and I'm not trying to contradict or try to make a an agreement between philosophy and religion at all. But my point is, so every single human being can say that this is kind of our major question in life. We are here for this, and every single one of us cannot do really, without asking these questions at some point of our lives. And it's asked by the whole humanity. And no matter how busy we are, no matter how we are, concerning ourselves with the other things, but finally, everybody wants to know about these things. And I guess the only comprehensive or fulfilling answer is possible by divine guidance. Otherwise, as you said, many other people ask about these questions and discuss it and come with a lot of answers, but without recognizing this wisdom of the maker, I guess it's kind of impossible to come to a fulfilling conclusion. And if you keep away from these why questions and just try to explain it, the physical mechanism, the system, it doesn't work. Even the system itself is talking about the purposes and aims behind it, the mechanical part of it, without our feelings and other qualities. So thank you bringing the definition, or distinguishing between those things. So this is a very, very major question again for us, and inshallah today we'll try to go through the 11th word, which is addressing it beautifully. And additional comments before I'm going into the comparison.
Maybe we should proceed, Avi.
Okay, inshallah. We can talk anytime related to the question. So inshallah, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the wisdom of the world and riddle of man's creation and the mystery of the reality of the prayers, we'll look into the comparison. One time, there was a king as wealth. He had numerous treasuries containing diamonds and emeralds and jewels of every kind. Besides these, he had other hidden, wondrous treasuries. By way of attainment, he had consummate skill in strange arts and encompassing knowledge of innumerable wondrous sciences, and great erudition in endless branches of abstruse learning. Now, like every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, the glorious king wanted to open up an exhibition and set out displays within it in order to make manifest and display in the view of the people of the majesty of his rule, his glittering wealth, the wonders of his art, and the marvels of his knowledge, and so that he could behold his beauty and perfection in two respects. The first respect, so that he himself could behold them with his own discerning eye. The other, so that he could look through the view of others. With this purpose in mind, the king started to construct a vast, majestic palace. He divided it into magnificent apartments and dwellings, and decorated it with every sort of jewel from his treasuries, and with his own hand, so full of art, adorned it with the finest and most beautiful works. He ordered it with the saddles of the arts of his wisdom, and decked it out with the miraculous works of his knowledge. Then, after completing it, he set up in the palace broad tables containing the most delicious of every kind of food and every sort of bounty. He specified an appropriate table for each group. He set out such a munificent and artful banquet that it was as though the boundless, priceless bounties he spread out had come into existence through the works of 100 subtle arts. Then he invited his people and subjects from all the regions of his lands to feast and behold the spectacle. Okay. So, talking about our the first point I want to focus on is what are these wealths and treasuries, skills, or maybe should we just focus on the example, before we apply it to the reality, or I was
think
going
it would
to.
be nice to discuss on this parable or example before we get into reality.
Okay. So let's try to think over our own lives. you know, when we have something as human beings, we want to we want others to benefit from it, or in a way we want to make it available for the others. And this could be a something like a possession, or a wealth, or it could be an ability or skill, or something that, you know, we can benefit the others. So I guess this is kind of a feeling that's very strong with every human being. You know, we kind of can come with some examples in order to maybe think about it a little further. For example, he talked about strange arts, encompassing knowledge of wondrous sciences, and endless branches of abstruse learning. So let's say a very skillful engineer who is, you know, knowledgeable in very high technology, and he has the ability to maybe you know, to establish a system to manufacture the latest smartphone or spacecraft to you know, travel outside the world. And obviously we will expect that person, I guess, to use that skills, right? If he never did anything in his life and never, you know, presented that skills to the service of the others, that will be something really contradicting to our expectations as humans. That's an example that come to my mind. I don't know if we can compare to this comparison. So it's kind of a natural outcome, or what we expect, you know, out of these skills and abilities, I guess, in a way. Harun Hocam, you want to comment on this?
Actually, that's a great point, Baykar Abi. I think this talent or skills, let's take, it is very deep in us. Like whatever skills we have, we want to unfold or flourish, you know, these skills. It is very inherent in us. So anybody who has a talent wants to show it off. It has to be, right? Like you're feeling very, how to say, squished or depressed if you cannot unfold, or if you cannot just flourish the skills, the talents that you have. It's like we call it natural, of course. Like we are talking about the water freezes, right, at 0 degrees Celsius, and you know, it expands in volume. So that's the talent of the water. So when it freezes, it has to, you know, expand. That's the talent. So same with us human beings, we know pretty much sure that our existence just seeded some talents in us. And we strongly understand that this is the reflections of the names of the Creator in us. So this is something very theoretical. This is something very observational. And this is something very self-witnessed. Everybody knows that, although everyone can just name this phenomenon differently. We know that all we have different skills. So then the question is, what is the source of this skills, you know, skill set, or the talents, or the inclinations inherent in us? So we see here, you know, the Creator has such great and such unwitnessed skills with our words and we say it is Qudsi, right? It's not compared to the skills that we have, but it's just for us to understand the Qudsi or the divine skills, you know, to put it in the place. So there should be divine skills that wants to be self-witnessed and that wants to be witnessed through the eyes of the creation. So this is the hypothesis here that Nursi does, right? So the creator wants to witness the skills himself unfold, and also he wants to witness this through the eyes of the others he created. So this gives all the creation, all the wonders. So his skills, divine skills, are reflected and reflected through actions, through design, through creation, and etc. You know.
So, Alabi, any words on this human tendency, human aim of skill, and you know how we use it?
So this paragraph is very cryptic to me, except for reading the following explanation. I find it very difficult to, you know, comment on it. But we have read this passage many times, so from that I can say that yes, all the feelings that we are given by Allah are some way pointing to His names, His shu'unat, His awsaf ilahiyya, but we have to keep in mind that we are far from being perfect, but Allah is perfect. So Allah is Subhan. So these are just pointers. The feelings that we have are just pointers to Shunat Ilahiyya or Awsaf Ilahiyya. And this is a part of the big picture. So Allah creating the sun or the galaxies and also giving me this feeling are just 2 pixels in this huge picture. So the feeling that I have, which points to Shunat Ilahiyya, and the creation of sun are in essence are the same. They are pointers to the creator, but they have, of course, different ranks in this creation. And Ustad is pointing to these differences by carefully the verse picking the verse very carefully. For example, well, it's not said here, maybe it is in the next paragraph, but Ustad is using the verse very carefully. Maybe when we start reading this following paragraph, I can comment on this. But yeah, I agree with what Harun Abi has said. That these are inherent, naturally embedded feelings into the human. And these are things that we have to use to find our creator. These are just pointers to Allah. This is what I get, I guess.
Yeah. So
By Karabi, maybe you can, you know, articulate this hadith. There's this hadith you could see, although the sources are discussed a lot, right? But the meaning of the hadith is very clear, right? This kuntu kanzan mafi, and maybe if you want to talk about it, looks like Said Nursi, in a way, you know, opens this discussed hadith like Allah mentioned that I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to unfold, you know, then created the worlds. So I think this start is kind of sourced from this hadith you could see, you know.
Definitely.
Mhm. I guess this whole word is regarding that hadith, you know, concerning that hadith. I was going to share. I don't know if it's the right time, but maybe we can go on to that. In 32nd word, there's a part, as Salih Hocam said, we are looking into our own abilities, our own, feelings, and some, our own understanding or wisdom, in order to understand some divine attributes. And we should, of course, always keep in mind there is no peer or like or equal or rival or somebody with the divine attributes and like the divine. So we should be very careful considering this, but at least we can keep in mind that Allah gave that trust to us, that pale shadows or very, very little samples of that attributes, just to in order to know him. And this is how Quran introduces Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, with some parables and some addressing our minds and talking about our qualities. So maybe we can a little bit think about it, how we can use that attributes in order to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understand the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a sense, Salih Hocam underlined that Ustad chooses the words very carefully. There is for example, let's say, think about a very simple or major quality, like is seeing. Like we have eyesight, right, to observe the universe. So if we didn't have it at all, it's impossible to talk about it at all. We say that Allah sees everything, right? Allah is aware of everything. Allah sees everything. But so we have to have this attribute to even talk about it, right? But is it? Let me share this memory of mine shortly. At the dorm, we had a friend who was, blind from childhood, so he never had any eyesight. So one day he came to the room and he asked us, if somebody talks, in the room, or makes some noise when he comes into the room, I can understand, I can tell who he is. But without any noise, any talking, how you can distinguish or know who is he, who he is? So whatever we did, whatever we tried, we couldn't explain that friend. We couldn't explain how is it to see, or what does it mean to see. So coming from this memory, we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees everything, but does he need any eyes or binoculars or devices or telescopes? No, not at all. Even as creation, we human beings, we have X-ray to see inside the body. We explore radar waves to see behind the mountains, etc., etc. So when we say Allah sees everything, now it makes sense. But does he need any of these? No, not at all. So it gives us a gist, a sense of it. What does it what does it mean to see? But of course, his parable is above and beyond anything that we can even imagine. So coming from there, I don't want to take much time, but there
But
is,
Biker Abi,
yeah.
I think what you say is very critical to understand this 11th word, as you gave an example of vision, seeing through. I think this is about it. What does it mean to see? How do we really see? Do our eyes see? The answer is no. Do our brains see? The answer is no. Do our souls see? So when we question deeper and deeper, actually we will question what does it mean to really see, to really have a vision. And in the end, I think we will come to the prayer, without praying, without seeing all the creation praying, and we cannot see the creation really praise to the lords of the realms. We cannot make sense of what really seeing or vision means. I think this is the really connection, why this 11th word is really written. It is telling us what all our belongings really mean, and how to make sense of them, like vision, as you talk about.
So I guess, as Ustad will be doing throughout the 11th word and other parts, we should be very careful, I guess, making the comparison, of course, with the divine attributes, but it's the only way, but the only tool that we can use, I guess, to understand it. So I want to read this part from the 32nd word, which, will give us a perspective. Rather than looking to its likes and opposites, the pleasure, loveliness, and beauty of a thing, look to where those qualities are manifested. For example, generosity is a fine and pleasing attribute. The pleasure a generous person obtains from the joy and pleasure of those he has favored is thousands of times more gratifying than the relative pleasure obtained from feeling superior to other generous people. Also, a kind and compassionate person receives true pleasure proportionately to those towards whom he has been compassionate find ease and comfort. For example, the pleasure a mother receives from the happiness and comfort of her children because of her compassion is so strong she should sacrifice her very soul for their comfort. The pleasure of such compassion will even make a hen attack a lion in order to protect her chicks. Thus, the true pleasure, goodness, happiness, and perfection in elevated attributes do not look to peers and opposites, but to their dependents and the places they're manifested. The beauty, therefore, of the glorious and perfect one's mercy, who is ever living and self subsistent, clement and benevolent, compassionate and merciful, looks to those who receive his mercy. There are endless degrees in the happiness, ease, and joy of those who receive the manifestation of his mercy and compassion, and especially those who receive its endless varieties in everlasting paradise. We may understand that according to the degrees of their happiness and joy, the merciful and compassionate one experiences exalted, pure, holy, and beautiful meanings like fondness and love in a manner appropriate to him that may be described through qualities which are proper to him. He possesses otherly pure and holy qualities which we may not mention because the Sharia does not permit it, but which may be described as sacred pleasure, holy love, pure joy, and sacred happiness. We have proved in many places that they're infinitely more exalted, elevated, holy, and pure than the love, joy, and happiness that we see in the universe and maybe perceive among creatures. If you wish to take a look at a flash of those meanings, then look through the telescope of the following comparison. For example, a noble-hearted and magnanimous personage laid out a fine banquet on his magnificent voyaging ship in order to feed the poor, the needy, and hungry. Then he himself watched over on deck. You can understand how pleased and happy the thankful pleasure and appreciative gratitude of the poor, hungry, and needy made that generous personage. How much it gratified him. Man is not the true owner of even the humblest repast and is merely like a distributor. Therefore, if his joy is thus, you can draw an analogy with the sacred meanings of love and results of mercy that pertain to the merciful and compassionate one, which we are powerless to express. For he causes man, jinn, and animals to journey in the seas of space and to board the mighty earth, which is a dominical ship, then loading the table of the face of the earth with innumerable varieties of foods, he invites all living creatures to the feast, which is a sort of light snake or appetizer. For besides this, he will make each of every sort of perfect delight a table laden with bounties in a permanent and everlasting realm. He will inaugurate an unending and comprehensive banquet of innumerable pleasures and subtle wonders, which will be true food for his countless and endlessly needy and yearning slaves. So it goes on and on. I'm sorry it took a little long, but kind of uh, summarizes how we need to approach this topic, I guess. I hope it made little sense. I didn't make it more complicated. Or any reflection on this, Salah?
Well, I guess it's one of the best parts that could have been read as an explanation to what we're discussing. Jazakallah, Abi. So maybe you should, or someone should copy and paste the section and chapter and section of what you have just read in the chat so that we can refer to it later. Abi. So this was
It will be very nice to follow the text, yeah, since it's a very nice explanation of what you said.
Because this, in case we miss the points that are explained in the text that you just read by Karabi, then there's this likelihood of us thinking that Allah has given us some, godly attributes, which is completely wrong. These are just mere pointers to the Qudsi, the divine qualifications, divine attributes of Allah. And that part, 32nd word, is a very important word that we should, discuss in addition to what we are currently discussing.
I think Bilan raised hands by Karabi.
I need to unmute, I guess. I can't see if I can.
Let me see, Bilan, if you want to just talk about it.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi to everybody. I just wanted to draw attention to why our Ustad used the Shams Surah and in order to explain what we are trying to understand here. It is starting with Shams ve Duhaha. As far as I remember, the Duha in the Duha Surah, if I'm not wrong, Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi interpreted it is our messenger. And when we talk from this point, for example, the sun, especially in the Risale 2, our Ustad uses this Shams Ezeli, like the eternal sun. The sun is like as we discussed right now, we can't use this kind of language, but in order to understand these things, I hope God forgives us, Allah forgives us, we are using these terms. And if there's a sun, we know there's a sun, it radiates its light. I mean, it's why the sun is, we can't use this thinking too, but sun radiates its light, it shows light, and the most perfect light is our prophet. Also, this I want to draw attention to this tafsir. I mean, I'm not a scholar in interpretations tafsir ilm, but when I saw this surah and this 11th word today, I realized that sun and shams and duhaha. Yeah, I mean the sun and its perfect radiant, and like Allah is showing us this thing by its prophet first. And I look out of other tafsirs, other interpretations, and it goes on to the Qamar. I mean, when we can't see the sun, I mean, it becomes dark, and the other thing we see is Qamar, the moon. I mean, Ustad is pointing out these two kind of things, two respects. One, he can see himself with his own eyes, but the other thing is he see the things through the view of others. I mean, the sun and its light is the first thing, and the qamar and the darkness, and also I don't mean darkness. It's a mirrored version is the second thing. Uh, I know I couldn't explain this well, but there's the point in thinking these two, because as our Ustad uses as the Shams Surah to explain this, I have to say, analogy, it means that it is actually coming from this surah, this explanation. We should also think about this. And the other thing I want to add is that when we talk about the subject, I just thought that a director, a movie director, we can think of, he is both the director and the screenwriter and the producer and the manager of the movie. We should think of the director as this way. He knows how to produce movies. He knows how he set the film. He how to say, he made all the parts of the movie. He chosen the actors. He gave them their roles, their screenplays. He whatever he did, he produced the movie, but he still publishes the movie, and he goes to the gala to watch it. The director goes to the gala and still watches his own movie and let the other actors to see how they played in the movie. I mean, I don't know if it's a good analogy, but it just helps understand this subject better. The director knows all the things, but still publishes the movie and goes to the gala and let the others see the movie too. This is all I can say. Thanks for giving me the chance.
And thank you for your contribution. We are at the end of our time. Sorry, we were able to cover very little, but inshallah, we are planning to continue for the following weeks. Any comments before we close? Salih Abi, Harun Abi?
I don't have any other comments. Thank you, Abi.
Yeah,
It
inshallah.
was very, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the analogy from Bilan Abi, I guess it makes a lot of sense. Jazakallah for the explanation. The Shams and Qamar, his explanations about Shams and Qamar made sense. Jazakallah for that.
Thank you so much. There was also comments at the chat part, but I couldn't share them. Please have a look. We didn't have time to go over them. Inshallah, we are planning to come together for the next week. You want to close by a prayer, Salam?
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين